Uh, there we are, recording started. There's a short paper and two lightning talks. So, first up is Nick Gregory from Manchester Metropolitan, and she's going to talk to us about synergizing student support. Away you go, Nick.
Fantastic. Thanks, Andy. So I'm going to share my slides. So do let me know if there are any issues, if you can see that okay. Excellent. Okay. Um, so I want to talk about the library's approach to developing AI support for students and how we've tried to take a collaborative approach to this. So first of all, a little bit of context. I work within the Academic Engagement and Teaching Services team, and my role is Learning and Skills Manager. And as you can see, we have academic liaison librarians within our team, an e-learning developer, and 3 library learning advisors. So it kind of made sense for any development of student support that came from the library to sit within our team. And I've been asked to be the lead on developing that AI support and helping our team to move that forward. My role involves developing teaching practice across our team, managing our open program info skills and coordinating referencing support. So again, it made sense that all those things feed in to any potential AI support that we might provide. And I also co-chair a library AI working group as well, which my colleagues are currently presenting a session on in the parallel track. So if you're interested in that, you'll be able to watch that in the recording after the day. So I really saw generative AI as an opportunity in that it's really platformed the themes around information literacy that are in our area of expertise. So around navigating information tools and critical evaluation, issues around ethics and academic integrity and referencing. So it just really highlights what we already do and shows the rest of the university what our value and relevance is. And it's given us a real opportunity to advocate for our expertise and to show where we can really add value. It's given us a reason to get out there and look for opportunities to collaborate with people across the university and made us more attractive as collaborators because there's more understanding about what it is that we can provide. And it's been really a vehicle to help us build relationships, and that relationship building really has been key to our journey. So in terms of what we've actually done around that, um, in terms of liaison and advocacy, is we've really capitalized on those existing relationships that we had. It gave us a reason to get in touch with people that we might not have spoken to for a while. It put us back on their radar. We've managed to find out what's happening from those people that we're already in contact with, and they're in contact with other people. We've really broadened our network, and we've made new relationships and are making more progress on the harder to reach areas. At the highest level, our senior managers have been working with other senior leaders in the university to make sure that the library's role is understood and acknowledged. And of course, our academic liaison librarians have been absolutely crucial with their existing contacts with faculty um, in fostering those relationships. And as part of the liaison that we were doing, we found out that some new faculty AI leads had been recruited. So they've been able to directly link up with them, and they've already led to some really fruitful relationships. So that's been fantastic. We've made a real effort to present at university and external events to really raise our profile. And we've also consulted with students in terms of getting them involved in UX. And also, we've had some recent student placements who've actually run some UX for us. We got some great data out of that. They were looking at how students are using AI, how they feel about it, and what kinds of support they feel that they need. And then, of course, the work we've been doing coordinating and collaborating with our colleagues and really building up that trust and getting the word out there about what we can offer and showing people what we can do. So in terms of relationship building, this slide illustrates the wide range of stakeholders we've had to consider. So, there isn't, there's a genuine complexity that generative AI support doesn't sit with any one department. And there's an obvious area that we fit into in terms of information literacy, but there are lots of areas that aren't being provided for, and there's a lot of wrangling for territory at the moment. And we discovered through our liaison lots of pockets of activity, often in silos, not very coordinated, and you'd have individual enthusiasts in departments or certain departments that were very active. But there's confusion about ownership and who's responsible for what, and not very much high level coordination. So we've made it our business to try and get to know who's doing what and to coordinate as best we can from the bottom up. So this slide is to illustrate the journey so far that ManMet has been on in terms of generative AI. And of course, this is quite a simplification of what has happened, but these are some of the key moments. And the rectangles that are in orange are where the library has fitted in with some of these developments. So in March 2023, the university introduced some generative AI assessment and academic misconduct guidance for staff and students. And as part of that, the library were asked to contribute some referencing guidance, for which we created an FAQ, which is still in use at the moment. I would say at this stage of the process, we were all very reactive. So we were asked to do something. We were all in panic stations, and we produced something the best that we could under the extreme pressure. Then there was quite a large gap in activity, although of course there were lots of discussions going on. And the next key thing was in October 2023, Copilot for the Edge browser was rolled out across the university. And this kind of gave us an institutional tool that allayed the sort of concerns that we'd had about equity of access with anything that might need to be signed up for or subscribed for to get a more advanced version. And so as a result of that, our academic development department lead developed staff development provision in late 2023 onwards. And then off the back of that, and because we've been thinking about it for a while, we then launched our first student workshop in March 2024, talking about generative AI, which was actually based on some of the content that had been developed for staff. And that, for us, that was adapted to draw out the themes of information literacy and use the Copilot AI as a vehicle to draw out those themes and allow students to experiment and discuss their findings. In April 2024, there's just been an academic misconduct policy update. Very briefly, that was to reduce the severity of consequences for the use of AI and to take a more pragmatic approach and move more to support rather than the punitive model. And over quite a period of time, actually, an AI fundamentals online tutorial has been being developed centrally in the university with an idea of launching it by September 2024. And when I found out about this, I made sure that the library contributed the information literacy content for this. So we've collaborated on that as well. Again, for launch in September 2024, but it's been worked on for quite some time by, again, our academic development department lead, is some generative AI usage guidance for assessments, which should provide staff and students more clarity on whether and when they can use AI in their assignments. And as part of that, the library were independently wanting to create some more nuanced referencing AI guidance. So as a result, we've dovetailed with each other and we're now coordinating those efforts to make sure that they complement each other and go hand in hand. So what all of this work has done is it's really given us a seat at the table. So we're now being asked to represent at senior university meetings where we might not otherwise have been considered in those discussions around generative AI. We're actually being invited to speak at university events because the community is really impressed with the work that we've been doing. And we sit on various special interest groups and communities of practice within faculty and more generally within the university or within our directorate. And we will continue to try and be represented wherever we can. And finally, we know that our work has been noticed because our team have been nominated for 3 staff awards for our work around generative AI support for students, one of which came from a colleague outside of the library, which we were really proud of. So it showed that we were really appreciated. So in terms of challenges that we faced, I think a lot of these will be really familiar to people. I think one of the main things, which especially at the beginning, but I think it still persists, is the apprehension, or in some cases, outright fear, afraid of getting things wrong. I think that's the case in terms of staff and students, worry about whether they're following the rules, what even are the rules, worry that teaching it is advocating for it, academic integrity concerns around where the line is drawn, and I think that is still very much under debate. The fast changing nature, the fact that we are all at a knowledge deficit, and we feel like we always will be because of how quickly it's going, and how can we keep up with the other pressures that we're under. Differing levels of engagement amongst staff, which means that students will be getting a vastly different experience depending on who their tutor is and what kind of message they're being given. And again, different attitudes towards generative AI. So they may be an optimist, a pessimist, they may be completely indifferent. They might think it's going to be the end of the world. So people are getting hugely different experiences depending upon that. And then, of course, there's been, even with the guidance that has been provided, there's still a feeling that there's a lack of clarity for both staff and students around where the line is drawn, what is and isn't allowed. And that's been causing a lot of anxiety and also making it quite challenging to create support in those conditions as well. The learner development team does not sit in the library at Manchester Met, so that's also made it a challenge wherein there's a lot of crossover between what we do in terms of academic writing sits with them, referencing sits with the library, but academic integrity it actually officially sits with learner development, but obviously it leaks into our area. So it's been quite difficult to find who does what. And that is still something that we're all trying to work out together, who's responsible for what aspect of support. And at ManMet, there's also a lack of student-facing digital support. So in terms of actually helping students to use the tools, there is a lack of support in that area that it's unclear how that will be filled. And so there are a lot of discussions going on around that as well. Okay, so this is my final slide. So what next for us? So of course we want to finish off our AI referencing guidance and get lots of feedback on it from our various stakeholders. We've got lots of contacts now amongst academics and also in our learner development and academic development departments. So we'll be utilising those. And we also want to make sure that we do get lots of feedback from our students as well on that to make sure that it is understandable and see whether there's anything missing. We want to review our workshop regularly because we knew when we created it that that would be ever-changing in terms of the ever-changing context. And just to mention as well, there's a brilliant presentation by my colleagues again on the in-person day of the conference about the workshop that we created. So if you're going to Leeds, then please do try and catch that. We want to continue to incorporate generative AI into our existing provision. And we've also been thinking about providing support around prompt engineering in terms of it being a form of information retrieval and a form of search technique. Again, this is an area that's quite grey in the university, so it's something that we're approaching with caution, and we're just kind of laying the groundwork for that. We want to investigate peer support for generative AI. When the student placements did the UX work with other students, that was a suggestion that came out quite strongly from students, that they would really appreciate peer support where it felt like a safer, non-judgmental environment. So that is something that we want to work on and investigate. But of course, it's something that couldn't just be done by the library. It would be something that would need to be a cross-university initiative. So we want to try and make that happen. And then finally, really continuing to build those relationships, fostering as much collaboration as we can, and continuing to raise the library's profile and making us a major stakeholder in supporting AI. Okay. Hey, that's me finished, Andy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. That was brilliant. I'm just going to have a look in the Q&A if there's any questions, because I don't think there is any yet. But if people want to post their questions in there or stick their hands up and we'll call on you. Oh, there we are. There's Dan's just asked a question in there saying, thank you, Nick. You've mentioned a lack of student-facing digital support at ManMet. Has there been any discussion about positioning AI literacy development for students and staff in the context of their wider digital capabilities development?
There has been some discussion about it, Dan. At the moment, in terms of student-facing support, we have the library, which is the information literacy side, and then we've got the what we call academic and study skills, which is the learner development side, which is writing support, that kind of thing. But we don't have a student-facing service that actually provides digital support at all. So that is the discussion that's been happening. Where is that service and who provides that? Because our IT and digital, but they don't provide that kind of support for students at the moment. So it's going to be quite a big culture change, and it's something that I think there's a realization now that that's a big gap. So how that actually happens, we'll have to wait and see.
Thank you, Nick. There's another question in from Greg. So asking if you find that AI is bleeding into normal information literacy sessions and you can't avoid teaching information literacy without mentioning AI, or do you think AI works well as an independent or works best as an independent session? How
We
well do
had
they
a
link together?
Yeah, it's a good question. We had a lot of discussions about this, and I've seen other people speaking about it at Lilac, and you can go either way. I think we wanted to capitalize on generative AI as a buzz concept at the moment and have a session specifically on generative AI. But the session actually is about critical information evaluation and information literacy, essentially. But it's using AI, a generative AI tool, as a vehicle for highlighting those themes. So although we've sort of named it generative AI, we're using it as a way to make, for people to be attracted to the session and then learn about things which will actually help them evaluate any kind of information. And actually, the way that I see it is you kind of can't avoid it because it's another information source. And so it's the same as any other information source that we might be introducing to them, they always need to be critical, and so the same principles apply. But I think obviously there's a bit more complexity with AI, so we need to supplement our current sessions with AI stuff to make sure that we're covering it.
Thank you, Nick. We've probably got time for one or two more questions. There's one from Jodie in the Q&A. How have you managed the politics alongside actually offering a service and support?
Yeah, I mean, that is tricky, and I think you sense there is still confusion about who should be providing what. And I think what we've tried to foster is an openness. So if we've been developing something, we've developed links with major stakeholders, and we will tell them what we're planning to do to give them the opportunity to say, oh well, we should be involved in that, or perhaps we should be doing that. And we haven't had that yet. We haven't had anyone say, oh no, that you shouldn't be doing that. But we've been quite careful about what we've delved into so far. So we've kept it quite information literacy and quite obviously library oriented. I think there might be a little more discussion around the prompt engineering side of things, because it potentially could be seen to encroach onto other areas. So I think for us, it's been about that openness, but it hasn't been easy. And sometimes we've asked more senior managers to, discuss things at a higher level to kind of smooth the way before we actually make the move. But yeah, it hasn't been easy, and it wasn't as linear as it looked like in the diagram.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nick. Does anybody want to sneak in one last really quick question? If not, we'll move on. I'll just give you a few seconds. No? Brilliant. So thank you very much, Nick, for that. Thank you for answering all those questions really well as well. So next we're going to move on to two lightning talks. Mark up next, Mark Ogden from University of Huddersfield, who'll be talking about unlocking research potential. And after Mark and Ryan's lightning talks, we'll do the questions for both of them in one slot after both of them. So away you go, Mark.
Cheers, Andrew. Just share my screen. This is going incredibly slowly. Sorry, I'm just waiting for my laptop to catch up.
You're okay, Mark. You just have to give us a song while you're waiting for the slides to start off. If it's longer than another 30 seconds, is that okay?
Everyone will leave. I think it should be coming onto the screen now. So just while that is loading, thanks for having me, everybody. So my name is Mark Ogden. I'm from the University of Huddersfield. I'm currently the Educational Allied Health Librarian, and I've put this presentation together with Becky Riley-Smith, who got a last-minute invite to BIAL in Leeds, so she won't be joining me today. I'm still waiting for this to come on the screen. So here we go. So today we're going to be looking at unlocking research potential, harnessing AI in information literacy workshops. So first of all, just a little bit of background about what we've been doing in regards to AI at Huddersfield. We tried to make it as a collaborative effort as possible. So we've been working with our strategic teaching and learning group to develop the AI offer. So we've been working very closely with those. Huddersfield does have an AI policy. I've heard it mentioned in another talk today. So currently running a traffic light system when it comes to AI. So we've tried to make all our AI offer in line with university policy. So working very closely with those to develop the sort of materials and lessons that we put together. And one of the first things that we put together was our very well received LibGuide. And there's a link to that just down in the bottom left there. So that was aimed at staff and students. And that was aimed at kind of all the different areas of AI. So ethics, so academic misconduct. It delved into some AI tools as well, how to get started, some issues with those. So we publicised that very heavily when that was published at the start of the year. And that has been received very well by staff and students at the university. What we'd also worked on kind of first of all was AI sessions focused on undergraduates. And based on working with the strategic teaching and learning group, based on feedback with academics, that was mostly focused on academic misconduct and ethics. So kind of warning undergraduates about using AI too much, potential pitfalls, anything that could go wrong with overusing AI in your work. So building on that, though, we wanted to start focusing on researcher sessions, so delivering AI sessions for our researchers. We do have informed researcher sessions that we do run currently. These are run throughout the year. They're focused on research skills using EndNote, for example, and we wanted an AI session to run as part of that. And the idea behind this was it would be less focused on the misconduct and ethics side of it that we aimed at undergraduates, and this will be more focused on how to actually incorporate AI into research. So how to make the various AI tools that are available work for the researchers and how they could start using this effectively to kind of aid in their research. It was incredibly highly requested. We did in some of our other informed researcher sessions, we always had researchers asking when are we going to be running some AI sessions. Most of the questions were about AI. We're getting a lot of emails asking us for support with various AI tools, such as Rayan, kind of all these systematic tools that are popping up. So we knew this was something that was really kind of, it's really something that researchers wanted. So that's the kind of, that's how we came at that. So we started to plan for our informed researcher sessions, some of the things we wanted to achieve, and these were the 4 things we came up with. So experimentation. We wanted the classes to be interactive. We wanted the researchers to be able to play around with the tools, see how they were used, how they could perhaps help them in their research. There's demystification as well. There's obviously a huge amount of talk about AI going on in academic circles, online, in conferences and things like that. Researchers heard a huge amount of these various tools, so we wanted to kind of demystify them, show them how they worked. Evaluation as well. Obviously, I think sometimes researchers come at it with the idea that there is an AI tool that will kind of fix all their problems in terms of what they're researching. Obviously, that's not the case at all. There's various tools that do different things. Some might not be suitable for one researcher while they'd be suitable for another. So I'll teach them how to evaluate these tools. Is this one useful for them? This one might not be. How they can make them work for each other. And equity as well. This was a big one. See, a lot of AI tools are behind paywalls. You need to sign up, pay a monthly fee. So we came at it from the perspective that the AI tools we were going to demonstrate would be free. So we were going to aim this. We were going to try and promote the free AI tools. So in terms of the workshop, they were advertised as part of our informed researcher sessions. They were advertised as normal. So emails would go out to the research schools within the various departments, advertise them to whoever wanted to join the sessions. They will be delivered in person, and they will be delivered in the computer lab in the library so that students, again, researchers could get on the computers, play around with these tools. And they're going to be between an hour and an hour and a half long. So plenty of time to kind of play around with the tools, plenty of time for discussion and evaluation, and plenty of group work when we actually got down to playing around with our various AI systems. So in terms of the lesson plan, this is what we decided to do. So a demonstration of an AI tool that would be around 5, 10, 15 minutes long, depending on how much we would show them. This would then be followed by between 5 and 10 minutes of hands-on exploration by the attendees, where they could play around with the tool, see how it worked. We've done various methods on getting them to kind of think about the tool, including recently using SWOT analysis to decide the strengths and weaknesses of various tools. Then in their groups or pairs, depending on the amount of people we had, the attendees were then asked to share their experience of using the tool. So what worked well, what didn't work so well, how they could incorporate that into their research. All this feedback was then obviously shared with the group. We had a nice discussion about it, and then we will move on to the next tool, demo, and kind of repeat the process. As kind of mentioned before, equity was a huge part of this. So this was what we based a lot of our thinking about. Ensuring equitable access to AI-powered library resources is crucial in empowering all library users. We currently, and I'm sure this is the same as a lot of institutions, we're not in a position to subscribe to any particular AI tool. So we wanted these sessions, the AI tool we introduced in these sessions, and all the training material we kind of prepared to be aimed at AI that was accessible to everybody, so tools that everybody could use. Which leads into actually deciding what AI tools we're going to advertise during these sessions. And this is where the main kind of thought went into the whole process. The issue, as I'm sure a lot of people have run into, is that there's just a vast amount of AI tools available. There's a huge amount. There's new ones coming out every day. There's new ones that do different things coming out at the time. So how do we know which ones to focus on? Can't focus on everything, obviously. So we had to choose a limited number. And the thought process we came in choosing the various ones was equity. So which ones were free, especially, at the start of use. And then we looked at other avenues to decide which ones to use, including reviews. We looked a lot on social media to see which one other academics were using. Subscribed to various mailing lists, such as the JISC one, to see which ones people were recommending. And we asked researchers as well, which ones are you using currently? So we collated a huge amount of information to decide which AI tools to use. And we also did a lot of in-house testing ourselves. So we let librarians play around with these, see which ones we felt comfortable promoting and offering training on. And then we decided which ones we were going to advertise. So this is a very quick list of ones we decided to use in the sessions. Ones like Research Rabbit and Connected Papers, which generate extra material based on journal articles you put in. Things like Rayan, which supports systematic reviews. And a particularly good recent one we've become aware of, which is Polyglot, which translates long Boolean search strings into different kind of databases. So it translates into Boolean that will work in Scopus, for example, and then we'll translate it to work in PubMed or the various medical ones. So these are the ones we decided to use. And any ones that didn't fall into our criteria, such as Scholasy, we decided not to use. It's not free. We're not going to promote this. Obviously, we are working on this all the time, continually reviewing it, see which ones we feel comfortable using. And as kind of an addendum to that, the ones we do decide to promote, we also run training sessions with the librarians, so everyone's comfortable offering support in that area. Going forward into our next steps, we're looking to integrate AI tools into our existing Inform Researcher sessions. There was a quick discussion there in the last presentation on whether to treat AI as a separate thing. We are very much taking the view on it that AI should be integrated into information literacy, so it's going to be integrated more into our existing sessions. Continue to explore and clearly define what tools the library can support in depth, so which ones we feel comfortable supporting. And working closely with researchers. So what tools are they using? What do they need? What are they trying to work with? And then we're going to continuously adapt our AI offer and our workshops to their needs. And that is the reference to that article, if anyone fancied having a read. And I think that's about 10 minutes. That's everything from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. As I said, we'll do questions for the 2 lightning talks after Ryan's. So straight up now is Ryan, who's going to talk about all work. Oh, slide's already there. All work and no play from Newcastle Uni. Off you go, Ryan.
Brilliant, thank you. So yes, all work and no play makes Ryan a dull boy. This is going to be quite short, quite self-important case study into my experiences overcoming some of the anxiety we might feel around AI when it comes to our work. So, a little bit about me. Hello. Camera's over there. My name is Ryan. I am an anxious human being. In fact, my most used emoji is this one. And I have 2 separate careers currently. Career 1, I am Assistant Liaison Librarian at Newcastle University. This means I support the teaching, supporting information literacy, providing teaching materials for virtual learning environments, and working directly with students. It requires me to teach and support different stages and people coming from different knowledge bases. It requires a wide-ranging knowledge. I have to be able to communicate complex concepts to users. And in order to do this, I have to work and study to keep up to date with these new resources, changes to literacies, different types of assessments, and general best practice. It's something we actively work on. In my second career, I moonlight as the family tech support. This means I am on call to any member of my family for any technical question at any point in time, whether it's to do with a dishwasher, a telephone, a computer, or just about anything. They do not go to Google, they go to Ryan. This requires me to teach and support different stages and different knowledge bases, to have a wide-ranging knowledge, to be able to communicate complex concepts to users. Where it's slightly different, I'm on call 24/7, which can be frustrating. But also, I can provide this support because I use a lot of these things in my everyday life in some way or in some capacity. I try and make them fun. Either they're things that I use emails every day, I can help with inquiries about that, or I understand the shorthand so that when I go on Google, I can understand the information and find the information a lot easier than members of my family might be able to. So to apply this to AI, when AI emerged, it's been going for a long time, but when we had the recent changes in generative AI, it was so exciting. I was thrilled. This is something I could be tech support for. This is something I could really get involved with. I felt absolutely no anxiety about it. Huge, exciting developments. Rapid rate of change. Whole new forms of creativity. Prompt engineering. I've always wanted to be an engineer. It's a chance to be at the forefront of something significant. No pressure then. Then it came to apply this to my work in the library. Now, I felt somewhat less thrilled and less inspired by the enormity. AI in this context is this huge nebulous thing, and people are trying to work out what to do with it and what it all means. And we are in a position where we should be at the front of that, I think, as librarians working in libraries. It's obviously going to have a massive effect on information literacy. We need to develop AI information literacy alongside it. It's going to affect assessment in all sorts of ways. It'll change the types of assessments we use or how we mark them. It'll affect the teaching, how we teach things to people and what we're actually teaching them. Critical evaluation, always one of the key skills that we would teach as liaison librarians, becomes even more important because we need to encourage our students to apply a different type of critical lens to different types of items and information types they're using. And finally, we need to be upskilling ourselves. So at this point, I would say the anxiety was probably starting to set in. I went from my nice, happy, smiling work self to the feeling of my most popular emoji taking place again. So the first step then was to think about keeping up to date and dealing with the overwhelm. What do we need to be doing? Shouldn't feel guilty if all I've done is open ChatGPT, create an account, and then bookmark it, and then to come back to later. It felt like for a while, all we were being told was you've got to read this article, read this book, watch this video, join this team, attend this conference like this, learn the history of AI so you can explain it to people, know every possible tool and every possible application so that you can tell people which are the ones to use. That is a lot. That gave me a headache. So what I've been working to do is to find some place in the middle, to slow it down and find the middle ground. I've tried burying my head in the sand and ignoring it, and I've tried burning myself out on the overwhelm of it all. However, I've found that if we can remove the big picture a bit and find ways to incorporate it into our daily practice, we start to learn a lot more, and it starts to become more beneficial when we have to use it in different contexts. The more fun it is, the less of an obligation it feels like. Basically, I had to treat it like I treat my job as family tech support. So, what have I actually done? At Newcastle University, we've started a staff club called AI Play and Learn, which I'm delighted shortens to Apple. And what we do, we meet every couple of weeks on a Friday at lunchtime in a PC cluster. Anybody from across the library can meet, and we get a chance to play, to share. There's no teachers. It's not a taught thing. There are no experts. Sometimes we choose a theme. We've had one such as image creation, or introducing Copilot, which the university have purchased for us. We might do a couple of demos at the beginning. I might start off with, this is something I've done with my work, using it to fix some code in our virtual learning environment, using it to come up with some lesson plan ideas. And then we play and we chat, and different discussions break out and different ideas come forwards, and people are working in different places within the library, so they have different thoughts and different agendas. So it breaks us out of some of the bubbles of, I could easily focus on AI and teaching the whole time, whereas there are a lot of ways it could help with productivity or a myriad other ways, that it's really good to get those ideas and utilize people as a way of learning. That's my learning style, and I'm trying to bring AI into my learning style rather than forcing it the other way around. We've had staff that had never tried Copilot, even though they had the privilege of having it available to them, and now they've tried it. For good or for bad, whatever experience they've had, they've given it a go, they've played with it. So this has been an ongoing concern. We're constantly changing it and reviewing it. The last meeting, we had a discussion about what people want from it, what it could be, whether we need to focus it on different staff groups and start to break it into sections so people can address it to their work more, whether there should be task-based sessions where we all sit down and complete a task and then sort of compare notes. Lots of different ideas, and it should be a living and organic thing going forwards. So to wrap up, main lessons I've learned from my journey through the anxiety in AI. Language really matters. This guilt of obligation and expectation that I need to do this, I must do this, I should do this, really helps if you reduce it down to I want to and I could. If you can build low-level AI use into your daily life, if you can make it low effort, if you can lower the stakes and the enormity of it all, it's very beneficial to making you not resent it. Thinking about how you apply it at work, trying to make it smaller, focus on the task at hand, but by doing this kind of background learning, daily learning, even if it seems unrelated, you do start to make the connections and you do start to pull ideas together when you sit down to do a particular task, rather than sitting going, I have to understand absolutely everything. As I said, think about your own learning style and bring AI into that. And most of all, be fun, be playful, give yourself permission to be silly. As I said to Copilot just before this session, create an image of a librarian drinking coffee and producing lightning, as this is a lightning talk. And I'm quite pleased with the outcome. And that concludes my talk. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ryan. So now we've got 5 minutes for questions, about 5 minutes for any questions for Mark or Ryan. So you can pop them in the Q&A, pop them in the chat, or stick your hand up and we'll call on you. So I'll give it a moment for anything to come in. While people are thinking of questions, shall I ask you a quick question, Ryan? Do you think after taking that more playful approach, you're closer to the, I don't know, like the nerdy emoji that's a bit more confident about knowing these things than the anxious one, or do you think you're still?
I don't think I would say I've gotten to nerdy. I think it's still very much it's less anxious. It's more open to it, I guess. It's been more about sort of, and if you read books like Slow Productivity and Slow Thinking, it's been more about kind of trying to pull back from that, and it's more, yeah, just be open to it. But maybe nerdy. Maybe by next year's ALN, I'll be back saying how I became an AI nerd. Maybe that should be my next step.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ryan. Let's see if any questions come in. Yeah, there's some questions in the Q&A. So the first one is from Jody. I'm not sure if this is aimed at Ryan or Mark, which is, how did you engage Head in the Sand staff members? I suspect it's aimed at you, Ryan. Oh,
yes, I mentioned that. It's difficult. I guess but at the minute, it's been a case of opening a forum. So we have a newsletter that goes out to library staff. The library staff send out a message whenever there's a session, and I lay out the theme and lay out a very open, there is no expectation, nobody is teaching, come along, bring your lunch, and try and make it informal. If people that are sort of avoiding want to, that's fine. That's great. But we're not. The worst way for people that are avoiding it would be then to try and force them, because that really doubles down on that feeling. So yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. There's a couple of questions in chat. I'll jump to them next. So Liesl has asked the question: have you got any advice on setting up an AI book club, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's being as flexible as possible. I don't think we've wrapped it up. I don't think we have locked down what it needs to be. And the fact that in the last meeting, we were thinking about lots of different ideas. Next time we're trying an online one so that we can play with some of the AI features in Zoom, where it will, I think somebody mentioned an earlier session, it will summarize the meeting notes for you and give you action. So I tried to treat it a bit like a kind of a journal club. Our research team do one where they look at a research article and they get a lot of people to look at it from an open research and research data management perspective. They lay it out, there's a couple of prompt questions, and then they go. So I think you can advertise it gently, but it has to just be open the door and let people wander through, and hopefully it'll start to build a little bit more organically, I would say.
I'll jump to another one in chat, because I know some people are struggling to get to the Q&A, so I'll favour the chat. There's another question for you, Ryan. You're getting them all. Sorry about that. How do your managers feel about your learning style as you've laid out today?
I think very supportive. It came from, we have a learning development group. They asked for ideas, and I submitted the idea, and it linked with something I think they'd been thinking about doing. And my manager helped me break it down. We had a long chat about it and about how far we could go towards the silly and how to bring it back towards the not taught but the solid content. So they've been very supportive, and I think they want to see it develop. But it's just, we're not the people that are teaching AI. There's a NUIT, there's an IT department that are doing that. So it's finding that kind of the place to be something that's useful for gently upskilling ourselves, but through shared learning.
Fantastic, thank you. In theory, our times are up, but there's only one more question in, so I might just ask that question and as a final one. I'm not sure if this is anonymous user, so I'm not sure who they're and whether they're aiming this at Ryan or Mark. So either of you can jump in. It's what are your thoughts on AI and its ability to help bridge the disability gap? Are you going to jump in, Mark?
Because I seem to have hogged all the questions.
It's a really good question. I do think it has potential, obviously, but like anything else, I feel like the challenge, especially for librarians, is the amount of tools that's out there. Is in learning how they work and how they can be properly kind of implemented into the things we do day to day. So I'm sure there are advantages to it, but it's a case of finding kind of the right tool and making sure everyone's trained up on it. It's not a great answer, but that's what I would say about that.
Thank you. And thank you to all the speakers in this final slot, Mark, Ryan and Nick. That was really good. This is the final slot of the afternoon. Rather than make you all join the central lobby again and do a 2-minute wind up, I'm just going to finish off the whole conference day with a few thanks and point towards our competition winners. So if you all bear with me for the next 2 minutes, I'll just do that. So I need to bring up the list of who's won the. Right, I'll just find in my list of who's won the competition. There we are. So I just want to say, I've said thank you to the speakers in this afternoon slot, but thank you to everybody that's spoken today and asked questions in the chat or the Q&A, because that participation is also really, really useful to us and is what makes one of the things that makes it a big difference between just watching videos of people doing these slots afterwards and actually being able to engage and ask questions on the day. We hope to see some or lots of you in Leeds in a few weeks in our in-person day. Bookings are still open for that. If you haven't booked on the in-person day, just booked on the online. So there's lots more stuff happening in the in-person day in Leeds, end of the first week of July. All of these sessions today have been recorded. They will be made available soon, and I'm not committing to a deadline for that because it will be however long it takes our volunteers to take the videos, edit them and put them somewhere to be able to share with you. But they will be openly available as soon as we possibly can. So you can go back and watch and check back on anything you've seen today, or to see the parallel sessions that you haven't been able to make it to today. So they will be available as soon as possible, and we'll send out an email as soon as they are all there and ready. So my final thing to do today is to declare who's won our competition. So we had 2 competitions running through the day. There was a photo competition and a haiku competition. Each of those will win a £25